We're here with Joe Klemp, Senior Scientist with NCAR and member of the AMS Publications Commission, who is the 2011 recipient of two prestigious awards, the Carl Gustav Rossby Research Medal, the highest honor presented by the AMS, and the Charles Franklin Brooks Award for outstanding contribution to advance AMS publications and education. Congratulations on receiving both of these awards on Wednesday. Quite an honor. You received the Rossby Research Medal for illuminating the dynamics of mountain waves and thunderstorms and for improvements made to numerical techniques and community models. Tell us a little about your research accomplishments and how they relate to ongoing research challenges in these areas.
Well, it's certainly evolved greatly over the years. When I first got started in my research, Doug Lilly at NCAR was my mentor and got me started in mountain wave and downslope windstorm research. And so that's what really got my interest fired up in all of the interesting problems in the atmosphere. He also got me interested in starting to do three-dimensional cloud modeling, which back in the early 70s, this whole field was really in its infancy. So in those early years, developing the tools, the capability to model these severe storms, tornadic thunderstorms, things of this nature on the computer was really an exciting challenge. And then once we had those tools in place, then to use that to try to understand how these particularly intense storms are produced, what are the conditions that distinguish from the weaker storms from the stronger ones, why do they produce tornadoes, things of this nature. Through the years then, we've developed more and more capability to model more complex phenomena, and of course, in addition, computers themselves have become so much more powerful in terms of their capabilities. So we've had the ability to put together full research weather prediction models, and that sort of led to our having these community models, the weather research and forecasting model that's being used widely around the world to assist others in their research as well as just using it for our own purposes.
Interestingly, your academic background is in chemical engineering. How did you get into the atmospheric sciences, and why mesoscale and microscale meteorology in particular?
Well, it really is almost sort of a fluke that I ended up in the atmospheric sciences. All my degrees are in chemical engineering, undergraduate and graduate. And in my last year of graduate school, I started looking around at what the job opportunities were. I guess I was sort of naive or hadn't thought much about it, and I realized that over 80% of chemical engineers work in Texas or the Eastern Seaboard. And for a guy who's always wanted and been sort of determined to live in the West, this was not a happy realization. What was I thinking? And shortly after this, I was walking across campus to a seminar at Stanford and cut through one of the engineering buildings, and here was this poster on the wall in the hallway that said National Center for Atmospheric Research, Advanced Study Postdoctoral Program. I thought, wow, there must be a lot of interesting fluid dynamics in the atmosphere, and Boulder certainly is a nice place. And so I sent in an application, and as it turns out, at that time, which is back in about 1970, NCAR was making a concerted effort to bring scientists from other disciplines into the atmospheric sciences, and so I actually had a chance to be considered, and they offered me a postdoc, and I accepted it, and that really changed the whole direction of my career. When I got to NCAR, they encourage you to go around and talk to the various scientists about what they're doing, and I went in to see Doug Lilly, and I'll tell you, for me it was sort of like I don't know if you remember the movie The Graduate, where Dustin Hoffman at his graduation party, there's a guy comes up to him and just says one word, plastics. When I talked to Doug Lilly, he had 2 words: mountain waves. You know, he just really got me excited. And within, I'd swear, a couple hours of going in to see him, I was coding up a mountain wave model and on my way. So I think it's really through a lot of the influence of Doug that I started out in the sort of smaller scale, mesoscale part of meteorology.
If you had the opportunity, what might you like to do differently along your career journey?
Differently, boy, that's a tough one, because I've certainly been very gratified by all of the collaborations and collaborators I've had over the years. You know, so much of the research we do, it's not done in isolation, and the collaborators I've had have been certainly responsible for a lot of the success I've had in research, and also have become you know, great friends as well. So I can't really think of anything that I'd particularly want to do over again differently.
How about the machine side? Do you wish you had different technology or more, let's say, access to faster computers at an earlier stage?
Well, I guess for me the reality is I don't think we've been so terribly limited by computer technology. You know, there's always the desire to run the biggest, most complex model that we can, but so often these big sort of hero kinds of simulations are things that people do once, maybe to show that they can do it, but the amount of science that we get out of those simulations sometimes is not so great. And in a lot of the work I've been involved in, we've been trying to understand very basic mechanisms, and for that research, there's the incentive to, if anything, try to simplify the system back as much as possible so that we can understand the essence of what makes things behave the way they do. So for a lot of our research, we've actually used very simple models to try to understand just pieces of very much more complex systems.
When you first learned you were going to receive the coveted Rossby Research Medal, what was your reaction?
A total surprise. It just dropped out of the sky. Keith Sider gave me a call one afternoon a few months ago and mentioned that there was not only the Rossby but the Brooks Award, and I just couldn't believe it. It was just a real shock. Very pleasant one, by the way, but
I can imagine. How about the realization that you're also getting the Brooks Award for your services with the AMS Publications Commission?
Well, that's amazing as well. I certainly didn't expect that, and you know, the whole publications process at AMS has evolved so enormously over the years, and you know, I've been involved with AMS Publications for 25 years now, since I was first chief editor of Monthly Weather Review, and then since then I've been on the commission and been a couple terms as publications commissioner. But the AMS staff and leadership, I think, has been so remarkable in moving the whole publication process forward, you know, into the electronic era, dealing with all these complex issues. And some of us have been, you know, able to help and facilitate that. But I think the AMS itself really should give the award to themselves for all they've done in this area.